Welcome back to Respect the Dead, the podcast where we don't.
Betty, it's no surprise that everyone celebrated your demise, and now worms are eating your eyes. So don't you worry your rotting head as you sleep in your sodden bed. It's time to respect the dead.
Welcome back to Respect the Dead. I'm Kaylin Conrad.
I'm Amy Mandy.
I'm Amanda Hootman, aka Hoots.
And today we have most likely a two-parter. She definitely meant 3. Unless somehow I managed to go through 30-odd pages of notes in an hour, which I do not think is going to happen. Because this was probably one of the most prolific writers. Not good, but prolific.
Mm-hmm.
And there has been so much written by him and about him. And you sort of need to know both because they're two different stories. His autobiography and his biography are very, very different stories.
Yep.
So first, we're going to start off with his his actual biography, and then we're going to go into the legend that he made for himself. So this is L Ron Hubbard, Lafayette Ronald Hubbard.
Lafayette Ronald!
Lafayette Ronald.
Oh my god. This man has had so many wedgies in his childhood. That head knows every inch of the local elementary school's toilet.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I would have. I absolutely would have. I would finally someone that I can pick on as the local gay punching bag.
Lafayette Ronald.
Lafayette is a gorgeous name.
It is.
Lafayette Ronald.
Yeah,
however.
it's the Ronald that really brings it down.
I'm imagining him dressed like little Lord Fauntleroy.
Okay, I was picturing like a very lispy Ronald McDonald. Sorry to all my Lithbies out there. I don't think that's the appropriate phrase, not like a Swiftie. Okay, so it is Tilden, Nebraska. It is the year 1911. And a baby was born who grew up to be heralded as a war hero, a scientist, a messiah, the reincarnation of Buddha, a baby so cool that he would visit heaven twice, 43 trillion years before even being born.
Wow.
I know.
Impressive. I've never done that even once.
Just as a baby.
I
I would be willing to say that's maybe the most accomplished baby who's ever lived.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But he was also like a cult leader, a rapist, and like a fucking coconuts compulsive liar.
Yep.
Like literally would just say stuff, anything you wanted. It didn't even matter if it matched the thing he had said 10 minutes ago.
No.
He was the child of a teacher named Ladora May, and her husband's name was Harry Ross Hubbard, a former United States Navy officer. During the 1920s, the Hubbards repeatedly moved around the States and overseas. He was in the Boy Scouts in Washington, D.C., and an Eagle Scout, apparently the youngest Eagle Scout ever to be an Eagle Scout.
Yeah.
Was that also when he was a baby?
It was 2 weeks after his 13th birthday, according to him. They have no record of being there at all. But I don't think the Eagle Scouts are necessarily keeping meticulous centralized records.
Yeah.
So at 16, his father was posted to Guam, and that summer, Hubbard and his mother traveled to Guam with a brief stopover in a couple of Chinese ports. He recorded, so he wrote like from a child. He always had diaries, he kept journals, and those journals actually have a lot more information about his life than his autobiography does, because he wasn't like, they were not password protected. He didn't write in like a fun cipher, and he wrote pretty much everything in there. So he did not love Japan and China, whom he described the inhabitants of as slurs that I will not say.
Oh.
And lazy and ignorant. It's the C slur, which is just with the hard C and the K at the end.
Okay.
In September 1927, while living with his grandparents, he enrolled at Helena High School, where he wrote for the school paper, but by the end of the school year, he had been kicked out for failing grades.
Mhm.
So he left to go join his parents in Guam a month later. Upon return to Guam, he spent most of his time writing dozens of short stories and essays while trying and failing over and over to pass the Naval Academy entrance examination. He was enrolled at a prep school in Virginia to get him ready to like take the exam again and prepare him, and sort of like a boot camp,
Yeah.
sort of.
Yeah.
But he said being at school made his eyes hurt too much.
Oh, honey, you probably need glasses.
I don't like seeing information.
You probably just need readers. I had that too in 2020 when we were all working on our computers all day, and I just went to Lens Crafters, and they were like, "Yes, sweetie, you're very slightly farsighted."
So, no, he was lying.
Oh, Mommy, I don't want to go to school. It makes my eyes hurt. I want to stay
No,
at home and bake cookies with you.
That's exactly it, and he admitted it in his diaries.
Ah,
And you know what? I do stand that.
yeah, I stand that.
So he got a doctor to diagnose him with myopia, and as a result, now could never join the Naval Academy. So it is my suspicion that he was doing it to get out of joining the Naval Academy, because he wanted his cute little jet setter life and not, fucking being dragged around by his parents and then forced to join an academy where he would have to do things like manual labor and being beholden to people.
And follow orders.
Yeah, and following orders.
Yeah.
As an adult, he would write to himself in his diaries, "Your eyes are getting progressively better. They became bad when you used them as an excuse to escape the Naval Academy."
Yeah.
So he was pretending to believe that lying about his eyes being bad made his eyes bad because, like, law of attraction or whatever. But that's not how lying works, bestie. Like,
Right.
your eyes are not
Fake
getting...
it till you make it, sweetie.
My eyes are getting so much better after I lied about them being bad. It's like, but you lied. So he went to a prep school in DC that was sufficient to get him. It's like it counted as an entrance exam to university because he could not get in because he did not have grades. He did not have anything he could show them where they would be like, "Oh, you should come here because you're smart."
Right. He had no credentials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing to prove that.
But it looks like his father set this up for him. So just as long as you can pay and go to the school, you can get into university.
Thank God that's not true anymore.
Yeah.
So he began studying civil engineering at George Washington University's School of Engineering. And he failed many courses, including atomic physics, though, of course, later in life would proclaim himself to be a nuclear physicist.
Okay.
But in 1931, he was placed on probation due to poor grades, and he received again near the end of that semester a warning because he fucking sucked. So that's his like early life backstory.
I just want to like emphasize how bad you had to be to like fail university courses in the 1930s, like,
or high school courses,
or high school, like
they were like
especially
they
it's just, like, a
kicked
white
him out.
guy.
Yeah, but they kicked him out. They weren't saying like you have to repeat the grade. They were like, "No, you're so stupid. You need to leave
Get
get out of my fucking room.
We don't want you here anymore. Go
The
home.
taxpayer is no longer going to cover your education."
Oh God. Okay, so here's some things he claims that actually happened when he was a child. That very boring, like, military brat story that's super commonplace was not good enough for him.
Mhm.
So his new story is that as a young child, he began to speak, like, by the age of, like, 2, like, full, complete sentences, like, able to read, do, like, elaborate maths.
Mhm.
He was made a blood brother to the Blackfoot natives by an elderly medicine man
Oh my God.
named Old Tom Mad Feathers.
Oh my God.
I know.
Oh my God.
Hubbard writes that Mad Feathers could jump 15 feet in the air from a seated position on the top of his teepee. Literally, the Blackfoots were like, "Oh, we don't have blood brothers." like not something we do
That's literally not a thing
at all. Yeah, like that is not like
Did they have teepees either? Like
not okay, I do not know, but judging by what Hubbard was known for and what he was the kind of lies that he created,
yeah.
everything he said was based off something he saw in a book or a movie.
Yeah.
I was about to say, it sounds like he watched Peter Pan once and was like, yes, those are my people.
Yeah.
According to people in his life, he did get this from like he read like a book about it or something and just started saying this out of nowhere. So they do. Blackfoot teepees are considered sacred bundles, and the design on the teepee is based on the origin story, which is handed down from ancestors through ceremony, and each teepee has a song. I love that. My apartment doesn't have a song. He further states that he was taken under the wing of a U.S. Navy commander named Snake, who was a neurosurgeon and former spy who taught the young cult leader to train cats.
What?
I wasn't able to find what they were training the cats for, but he was a U.S. Navy commander, so I'm guessing like some sort of
military,
some sort of ocean.
Wasn't there some experiment?
Some sort of like ocean war experiments?
Yeah, there was some experiment where there was a cat they were trying to train to be a spy, and it did not work. And maybe it was that. Maybe he was trying to train cats for
dogs are right
shit.
there. Monkeys are right there. A cat is never going to work.
Cats are like a cab. Fuck you. I will not work for the state.
Cat's going to do what a cat wants to do, you know?
Yeah.
So there's no proof that anyone named Snake ever existed. But he claims that while taking a sea voyage from Seattle to the Panama Canal, the greatest thing he learned from Snake was, if it's not true for you, it's not true. Which I think even this story is not true. But it doesn't really bother him, it seems, as long as people think that he excels in everything that he does and is the first and best and only person that should be doing anything in any field. But he's also like confused about how easily you can deceive people. Like, yes, he has one of the like biggest cults in the world and he deceived a lot of people, but like he's not very good at the storytelling. Like during his final semester at GWU, he planned a trip to the Caribbean to explore and film the pirate strongholds of the Spanish Main and to collect whatever one collects for exhibits in museums. That was his stated goal. He didn't even know like what he was supposed to be collecting. He was like, I'm going to go collect whatever they collect for museums.
I'll just find it.
Just old stuff. I'm going to find it and take it. Whatever it is.
Rocks,
I'll figure it out.
Shoes.
the L Ron Hubbard Caribbean Rock Shell Shoe Museum. But the trip was a resounding failure, and the ship's owners ordered it to return to Baltimore. And he dropped out of school with no notice, at which point his father was like, wow, my son is an abject failure. We need to step in.
Like many times over.
Yeah. Like literally, like this is like Boise's dad.
Yeah.
Who was like, you literally can't fucking do anything right. So they signed him up to join the Red Cross relief effort in Puerto Rico. However, en route, he opted instead to go on a mission to find gold.
Just find it.
Just like, oh, I was gonna join the Red Cross relief effort, but wouldn't it be fun if I became like a gold miner instead?
I know how to find stuff for museums now, so like I can find gold. Can't be much different, right?
He did not find any gold. This was not the lucrative trip he planned on it being. So then he returned from Puerto Rico to DC and struck up a relationship with a fellow glider pilot named Margaret Polly Grubb.
Oh, what a name.
Do you know gliders?
No. Like
They're like planes you throw out of a plane. It's not like a hang glider, but it's planes that fly without any like combustion engines. So you can either launch them from like a a catapult basically, or you can drag them behind another plane until they get the like lift.
Oh, that's dope. I'd do that.
Yeah.
That's
and they can go
fun.
really far. Like if you catch like the thermals and the like updrafts, you can just like
Hell
fly for like
yeah.
hundreds of thousands of kilometers
Don't
with
like
like
that.
no.
Oh, I'd do that. That sounds fun.
But I mean, it wouldn't be like a commercial plane. It's like a wee little guy.
Wee little guy.
I'm imagining like a little like thing made out of like cardboard and plywood that just gets like chucked out of the back of a plane.
Yeah,
And I'm
literally
like,
just throws it. Like,
where do I sign up? I love this.
It sounds romantic.
It sounds really fun. Yeah.
I would not.
Just like
that. I have too much of a fear of heights that would just freak me
Oh,
out.
I would not do it because even planes that like have fail safes in them are terrifying to me. But like one that's like if it stops being windy, you just fall out of the sky. It's like, no, that's okay.
And I'm just imagining, like, how does a mechanic like improve this plane? Does it just like draw like little flames on the side and say, "This makes it go faster"? Like, I just don't know.
Oh, racing flames, of course.
Yeah, I'm imagining like basically like boxcar derbies.
Yeah,
with, like,
exactly. Yeah,
I'm picturing like a boxcar derby version of Snoopy's little plane.
Yeah.
And like you're just flying with the little scarf and the goggles. Yeah. I'm like, it's so cute.
That's exactly what I'm picturing. And it was also built by a 7-year-old dog.
Yeah.
Okay, so he wasn't able to train cats, but maybe he was able to train a dog to build him a tiny little plane that he could fly in with fucking Margaret Polly Grubb.
He's got one really smart beagle that sleeps on the outside of his doghouse.
Behind every cult leader, there is one really smart 7-year-old beagle, is what I have always said. Okay, so the two, Margaret Polly Grubb and him, L Ron Hubbard and Polly Grubb, were married 2 months later and had 2 kids. L Ron Jr., who they called Nibs, which I love, and Catherine May.
Because he's just a little nibble. He's just a little nibble.
It's so cute.
Little nibs.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Nibs.
He would turn out to be like incredibly damaged by this entire cult thing. So like, poor Nibs.
I bet.
R.I.P. Nibs. But that's a cute name
Nibs.
for an infant. Nibs. Nibs, just take a little nibble of my nibble.
That is a shirt. So at the time they're living in Maryland, but were super heckin' poor because Hubbard was determined that he was never going to work a real job in his entire life if he could avoid it. Which
by golly,
I'm
stick to that.
On his side here as a fucking YouTuber
absolutely.
podcaster. I am
as a leftist, no one should have to work. So
subscribe to our Patreon. We never want to work a real job in our lives.
Please.
So they moved to live with his aunts and grandmother and began to be able to sustain themselves from his shitty writing. His first full-length novel, Buckskin Brigade.
Oh no.
It's as racist as you can possibly guess from the title. Was published in 1937. And then he wrote the script for The Secret of Treasure Island, a 1938 Columbia Pictures movie serial. I don't know what any of those words mean, but Hoots might.
I know that there was a Treasure Island that Disney produced in 1950. Maybe it was a remake of that.
Ooh.
Maybe.
And Treasure Island was a book.
Oh, okay. So he wrote the script he adapted that book for this. And then I guess maybe Disney just did too.
Isn't a serial...
Editing Kaelin can tell me.
Maybe editing Kaelin can confirm this, but isn't a serial back in the day it was like a series of shorter ones that made like a longer storyline. So like you go to like the movies or wherever and you'd watch this like shorter thing every time. And then and every time it'd be like a cliffhanger and you'd come back and see what would happen next week. It was like a
it was TV.
Yeah.
Before television.
Yeah.
Basically.
Okay. A series.
Indeed.
Mandy was right. That is exactly what it is. So that's pretty cool, huh? Little Miss Knows stuff. Little Miss Knows stuff has been knowing stuff. Hubbard spent an increasing amount of time in New York City working out of a hotel room where his wife suspected him of carrying on affairs with other women. We know that he cheated later in life, so she's probably right. I trust Grubbs. I trust you, Grubbs.
Yeah, I can't remember where I heard this, but I heard that L Ron Hubbard was like, he fucked a lot. He had a lot of sex.
Early on, yes. Later, he had a lot of rape. A lot of flaccid rape. So yeah,
Ugh.
coming from like a really horrible place, but we will get to that.
Oh.
He is a legitimate monster.
Mhm.
A monster who in April 1938 underwent like a routine dental procedure and had like a minor reaction to the drug used, the anesthetic, and claimed that he almost died. As in, he had a near-death experience in which he got a download
No.
of like just revelatory information. He was probably just tripping the fuck out.
I was just
Yeah.
saying
On like some
just
whatever gas or
laughing
whatever.
gas.
And allegedly inspired by this experience, he composed a manuscript, which was never published, with the working titles of The One Command or Excalibur. Do you two know what Dianetics is?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, little preview. This is what Dianetics is based on.
Okay.
Okay.
It came from this fucking trip to the dentist.
And a trip at the dentist.
The trip at the dentist.
Yep.
That fucking dentist has a lot to answer for.
Oh
What
my
kind
God,
of fucking
yeah.
laughing gas were you giving this man?
Right? If we ever get a hold
I'm going to find his name and then we can
Right.
drag him and it'll just be this.
Oh my God, yes.
Okay. So there's like a mythos surrounding Excalibur. It was called The One Command or Excalibur, but Excalibur is the one that mostly won out, even though it was never published. That's how it's referred to in Scientology.
Mm-hmm.
In a letter, Hubbard said reading the book could cause a sane person to go mad, saying, if you go crazy, remember you were warned, adding that a good publishing trick is to require that buyers sign a legal waiver, releasing the author of all responsibilities if the reader goes nuts. Consider this your legal waiver. If you go pazzo listening to this podcast, not our fault. So, sorry about it. He claimed the book gave people special powers, such as the power to rape women without their knowing it.
What?
Communicate suicide messages to your enemies as they sleep.
What the fuck?
Sell the, I think, Arroyo Seco Parkway, if that's,
Yeah.
if I'm pronouncing that right,
Yeah.
to the mayor for cash.
Well, that's so specific.
I think it was like a sell like ice to an Inuit kind of
Oh, okay.
like metaphor or whatever. Like you could sell the highway back to the mayor or whatever.
Okay.
Evolve the best way of protecting or destroying communism and other handy household hints.
Handy household.
And other handy household.
Sorry, but
Sorry, handy household hint. Here's how to get your enemy to kill themselves.
Or to rape a woman without her knowing.
Yeah, like no memory of it.
That's called drug. That's
Handy
date
household
rape. That's date
hints.
rape. And also how to get blood off of your clothes.
Yeah. Also, if you put a little lemon in the water, it makes everything smell fresh.
Oh God.
Jesus
Like
Christ.
you put a little bit of lemon in the water and it'll help convince your enemies to suicide themselves. This is like he really thought that this was going to like change the world. He was so sure of himself. He was like, I got it. Like sort of how like we are about this podcast where we like, we really have something here.
Yeah,
This is something really
special.
fucking special.
I mean, was he wrong? Was he wrong?
It did change the world. It absolutely changed the world.
It did. Not for the better.
This
but
fucking manuscript he typed up, dick in hand,
Oh God.
one finger.
On his fucking typewriter. Like ding, 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 ding.
I like that we both went there. We're gonna make sound effects.
Okay, so he believed that it would revolutionize everything and that it was somewhat more important and would have a greater impact upon people than the Bible. Just somewhat more
The
important.
John
So
Lennon
humble.
vibes. I'm bigger than Jesus.
Not to upstage Jesus, but I am a bigger Jesus.
So he was so sure of himself that he had something, a way out and beyond everything else, that he sent telegrams to a bunch of publishers saying he'd written the book and they were to meet him at Penn Station and he would accept whoever came up with the juiciest offer.
That is unhinged. That is like writing out a letter to publishers like, meet me at Penn Station at noon.
And this
Best
is
offer with no. What?
No, nobody bought the book.
Why are we meeting you at Penn Station?
This is
Because he didn't have an office. There was his house was like he lived with his aunt.
Pick
Yeah, he's
a
like,
coffee shop, you fucking weirdo.
Were there coffee shops in the 30s? I don't know.
I think so.
I don't know.
Yes,
I don't know
there
what there's restaurants. At
Pick
least.
a restaurant, buy a bottle of champagne.
So
You
basically,
know?
listeners, if you're thinking about some project that you want to get done and you're worried about being overconfident in yourself, you just remember L Ron Hubbard thinking he had the best-selling book already. You too can have the confidence of a mediocre
When I
writer.
try and peddle my gender critical book, this is how I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
Meet me at
The
Penn
people at
Station.
Penguin
Meet me at
Publishing
Penn
are going to
Station.
open like a very angry letter with like with the letters cut out from a magazine. Meet me at the CN fucking tower. So, okay, he was not happy. He was so depressed because he was so sure that like they were going to read it and be like, the ones that didn't immediately jump in front of a train because they went mad would like desperately need this
That kind
book.
of makes me think of sorry to interrupt, but that makes me think of Ayn Rand being depressed when everyone wasn't like immediately like Atlas Shrugged is the best book ever. But she had the same thing where she's like, this book is going to change the world and everyone's going to, bow down to objectivism. And then they didn't, and she was depressed.
Honestly, like L Ron did a lot better than her.
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but people did bow down.
Yeah.
So he told his wife in an October 1938 letter, writing action pulp doesn't have much agreement with what I want to do because it slows down my progress by demanding incessant attention and further actually weakens my name. So you see, I've got to do something about it and at the same time strengthen the old financial position. Sooner or later, Excalibur will be published and I may have a chance to get some name recognition out of it so as to pave the way to articles and comments, which are my ideas of writing heaven. Foolishly perhaps, but determined nonetheless, I have high hopes of smashing my name into history so violently that it will take a legendary form even if all books are destroyed. This goal is the real goal as far as I am concerned. And he did.
Okay, yeah.
Violently,
Smashing
might
that
I
motherfucking
add.
history.
So Forrest J. Ackerman, Hubbard's literary agent, recalled that Hubbard told him whoever read it either went insane or committed suicide. I don't know why that wasn't like an and or, but. And he said that the last time he had shown it to a publisher in New York, he walked into the office to find out what the reaction was. The publisher called for the reader. The reader came in with the manuscript, threw it on the table, and threw himself out the skyscraper window.
It's like that.
This
do you know that
did
song?
not happen.
Do you know that song Gloomy Sunday? How they were like there was always like an urban legend that listening to Gloomy Sunday would like make you kill yourself. It's just like a song.
No, I've
I
never heard
don't,
that.
but I'll play a little clip of it and we'll see if our download numbers go down.
Oh,
And we'll know if we killed any of the freaks listening to this podcast.
No, don't kill our fans. No.
If you're a patron on Patreon, turn your volume down for the next 10 seconds.
But how will we get new people if we're killing them?
Glory me Sundar. It's a song, probably. It's a glory me Sundar. I'll sing it for you. I'm assuming it's Billie Eilish. Glory me Sundar. It's a glory me Sundar. You like that? It's called talent. Google it.
I love the idea that these people weren't killing themselves because the book made them drove them insane. It's just that they hated him so much as a writer.
They had to read this fucking book.
Read this shit.
They're like,
fuck you.
They're like, if this is what my job is,
Yeah.
if this is the way America is headed, I'm fucking out.
I'm out.
I'll see you on the fucking pavement.
I felt when I read Life of Pi. Like, I just don't want to live anymore.
Oh my god. I'll see you on the pavement is like probably not a cool thing to say, but like
It's so good.
okay. The myth behind Excalibur grew, and Hubbard would tell a convention of science fiction fans that Excalibur's inspiration came during an operation in which he died for 8 minutes on an operating table.
You
Not
had
a trip to
your
the dentist.
fucking molar
Honey.
removed. Shut the fuck, you little pussy bitch. What are you talking
This
about?
is the same energy of me being like, that spider charged right at me when it was just sitting in a corner.
Yeah, it hissed.
It's literally that like scene from Reno 911 where he's like,
You were murdered.
Oh my god. Okay, so the claim was Hubbard realized that while he was dead, he had received a tremendous inspiration, a great message, which he must impart to others. So he sat at his typewriter for 6 days and 6 nights, and nothing came out. And then he wrote Excalibur, which felt like I felt like the buildup to that story was like very intense. But it's like, yeah, I sat there for 6 days and 6 nights and I didn't do anything. And then I wrote Excalibur. It was like not like he sat there for 6 days and 6 nights and it was just pouring out of him.
No.
Like you think you just start the story and then I started writing it and then I wrote it. Like the build up to nothing. Okay.
And this manuscript is part of like Scientology mythology, but you wouldn't like hand this out to like a new Scientologist.
Mm-hmm. Well, it might make them throw themselves out a window or something. So,
so an early 1950s Scientology publication offered signed, gold-bound, and locked copies for the sum of $1,500 apiece.
Oh my god! In 1930s money,
it's $17,000 now.
Wow.
I know, I kind of want one. I want to read it. I want to see if I go absolutely coconuts.
You jump out the window.
Inside the book, it warned that 4 of the first 15 people who read it went insane, and that it would be released only on sworn statement not to permit other readers to read it.
I bet it's fucking boring. Like, I bet it's not even good.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? It's probably the most boring book.
I bet it's just like, oh god, just some of the worst fucking like deviant art, like fan fiction.
She went full Wattpad. And it contains data not to be released during Mr. Hubbard's stay on Earth.
Stay on Earth.
Which is a very interesting way to phrase that.
Huh.
Mm-hmm. After returning from Alaska, Hubbard applied to join the Navy. His friend Robert McDonald Ford, a state representative for Washington, sent a letter of recommendation describing Hubbard as one of the most brilliant men I have ever known. But it would come out later that Hubbard wrote it himself because Ford gave him the letterhead and said, "Hell, you're the writer. You write it." And he wrote that he was one of the most brilliant men he had ever known. He made it into the Naval Reserve, but reports on him stated this officer is not satisfactory for independent duty assignment. He is garrulous and tries to give impressions of his importance. He also seems to think he has unusual ability in most lines. These characteristics indicate he will require close supervision for satisfactory performance of any intelligence duty.
So they're like... He kind of seems like a fucking narcissist and also like kind of lazy, and maybe we should keep an eye on him.
And he's bad at literally everything.
Also, he keeps complaining about his eyesight. I don't understand what that has to do with anything.
Oh, he brought up like 90 other things in his time in the military about all of his various health issues.
When he went to go get a fucking filling, he said he died.
It was like probably like a routine cleaning too. They were like, we're just gonna take a couple X-rays, do a little mouth mold, and get rid of some little fat. For 8 minutes. It's like, so you were at the dentist for 8 minutes.
Yeah. That's probably what it was.
So he made a request to do sea duty, and it was approved, and he reported to Neponset, Massachusetts. How do you say that? Neponset? Is that still a real place?
Sounds right. Neponset sounds right. I've never been there or heard of it.
I don't know that one.
I just assumed everyone in America knew all the cities.
It's well known that every city in Massachusetts is completely unknown to how to pronounce it properly other than the locals. So don't worry about it. Everyone in Massachusetts is correcting you right now.
Yeah.
This is like some little New England humor.
I love this Easter egg about America. Oh no, something's happening with my headphones. Hold on, sorry. Hello?
Hi.
Can you hear us?
Oh, it was weird. It was like rocketing back and forth between each ear, and it was giving me like a weird like strobe effect in my ears where I was like, okay, absolutely not.
Did you die?
Yeah. For 8 minutes.
Died for 8 minutes.
I died. Daddy, I died. I can't go back. So his request for sea duty was approved, and he reported to town in Massachusetts. But soon after, the commandant of the Boston Navy Yard informed Washington that Hubbard was not temperamentally fitted for independent command. And days later, he was summarily relieved of that command. So he was sent off to the next thing, something nobody could get wrong. They just sent him to the bottom of the ocean.
What?
If only it stayed there.
Did somebody try to kill him?
A submarine chaser. So you go around, you explore the sea and try and find enemy subs.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorite parts.
A sub chaser, as we say.
Yeah. Only 5 hours into the voyage, Hubbard believed he had detected an enemy submarine and spent the next 68 hours engaged in combat, firing missiles and shit, circling it and like going into attack over and over, depleting them of all their weapons. It could have been an epic battle that made a name for old Ronnie if he hadn't been in a 3-day battle with a rock and a bubble. A big magnetic rock that everybody knew about, and a bubble created by him exploding depth charges near the big rocky rock.
Dumb asshole. Oh my God.
This man is regarded as a messiah to some people.
Oh
Let's remember that right now. This man is like a prophet. Like,
well, when he tells the story, he was a war hero.
Of course he was, because he defeated that rock. You're welcome, Earth.
This sounds like something from like a kind of annoying like Will Ferrell comedy from like the early 2000s.
If Michael Scott was a sub chaser.
It has very Zap Brannigan energy from Futurama, yeah.
Oh my God.
So obviously the vessel was recalled back. The following month, Hubbard unwittingly sailed to the craft into Mexican territorial waters and conducted gunnery practice off the Coronado Islands in the belief that they were uninhabited and belonged to the United States. The Mexican government was like, yo, you just like came here and started shooting at our
rock
land. At our rock and then our island. And he was relieved of command again. As by my count, this is the 7th time people were like, and don't come back. Very like hyenas to Simba. Like, and if you ever come back, we'll kill you.
You know what? Like what I think is kind of beautiful about America, like through all time, is like we will, as a culture, we will find like the dumbest man you've ever heard of, and we'll be like, let's make this guy our god for a while. And I think that's beautiful. I think
the report written after the incident rated Hubbard as unsuitable for independent duties and lacking in the essential qualities of judgment, leadership, and cooperation.
Let's give him another commanding position somewhere. Let's do it.
Oh yeah, they said he should be assigned duty on a large vessel where he can be properly supervised.
Yes!
But after being relieved command of that ship, he started reporting sick, citing myriad illnesses like ulcers, malaria, back pains, and was admitted to San Diego Naval Hospital for observation, where he would stay for 3 months. Later, he would write to himself, your stomach trouble you used as an excuse to keep the Navy from punishing you. You are now free of the Navy. So he just like admitted, like, I just lied. He
literally just lied. So that, yeah.
But I feel like he writes these things to himself to be like, oh, by the way, you can stop lying about that now. You don't need to have ulcers anymore. You can change your
reminder.
Yeah, reminder. That was a lie you told yourself and everybody else.
Like a real fucking weird guy. Like,
oh yeah, that is like absolute bonkers behavior.
That is unhinged.
Yeah. Like just like a diary of all the lies you need to remember not to tell anymore.
That is deranged.
And it's also like written to yourself.
You
like,
couldn't even remember. Yeah.
Whatever.
You're like, dear Ronald, your stomach's fine. It's fine. You lied. Remember when you lied?
It's so much weirder that he has to like write when to stop telling the lie as opposed to like keep track of what the lie is. It's like, okay, this one was a lie. You can stop telling it now. Like that's deranged.
Well, yeah, I think he must have at some point told these stories enough that he believed it himself, or at least,
that's deranged.
Really needed a reminder that it was the lie. Like even if he knew, it's just like no, like time to wind this baby down. Like,
well, I mean,
we're supposed to be God, basically.
Not to get super ahead of us, but considering all the lies he eventually tells, like, I almost could understand him needing to like have like a list of like, no, this was a real one, this is a fake one. Like they're having to like go through and remind.
It's just
himself.
Like a pro and con list.
It's
like real and fake.
Real fake memories is the overarching category, and just going through.
So 1944. Hubbard was posted to Portland, where the USS Algol was under construction. The ship was commissioned in July, and Hubbard served as the navigation and training officer. I do think he probably lied on his resume for that one. But the night before his departure, he tried to destroy the ship with a single Molotov cocktail.
Okay, I love that. That's great.
The ship's logs reports that the navigating officer made an attempt at sabotage that had been made sometime between 1530 and 1600 hours. A Coke bottle filled with gasoline with a cloth wick inserted had been concealed among cargo and was to be hoisted and stored in the hold. So he was out. He was gone. So he decided to go to school in Princeton until January 1945, where he was assigned to the Navy in Monterey, California. But again, started getting sick and was put back in the hospital for headaches, rheumatism, conjunctivitis, pains in his side, stomach pains, pains in his shoulder, arthritis, hemorrhoids. Like he was just throwing everything against the wall. He's like, my butt is so bumpy. I don't think I can do this job anymore.
I think I have fleas. Coming up with shit.
But doctors looked at him, like the Naval Board examined him. They're like, oh yeah, he's totally physically fine.
Mm-hmm.
But I think they understood, maybe mentally not so much. So when he tried to resign, they were like, okay, you do that. You leave now.
Please go.
Bye. Don't let the door hit you on the way out.
So he's saying that immediately after that, he was abandoned by family and friends as a supposedly hopeless CRIPPBLE, I don't think I can say that word, and a probable burden upon them for the rest of my days. But his daughter, Catherine, said his wife just didn't want to move to California with him and uproot the kids. But he was like, I've been abandoned by my family and my friends in my darkest days. But literally, he just packed him and left.
So he's prone to exaggeration is what I'm hearing.
Literally everything.
Yeah.
Like my family abandoned me.
Yeah, he was like, oh, because of all my horrible medical issues, they left me. And I'm like, well, you didn't have any horrible medical issues and they didn't leave you.
I had a terminal case of hemorrhoids. I was given 6 months to live. Imagine being in hospice care for hemorrhoids.
It's like, oh, you can hear him like bellowing at night.
I thought it was the wind. It's like the fucking secret garden or something.
Not little fucking Annie Goodweather or whatever in the secret garden finding him in the room, just like this bumpy ass fucking. I almost said Howard Schultz. L Ron Hubbard.
Howard Schultz.
So 1945. We start to get a little occulty.
Ooh.
We start to get a little OTO, which I love. So Hubbard moves into the Pasadena mansion of John Jack Whiteside Parsons.
Ooh, Pasadena's real nice.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, it's not too far from me. It's real nice.
I'll Google her later.
There's a lot of trees and rich people.
Parsons is a leading rocket propulsion researcher at the California Institute of Technology and a founder of the Jet Propulsion Laboratory, but also led a double life as an avid occultist, follower of the English ceremonial magician Aleister Crowley, and a leader of a lodge of Crowley's magical order, the Ordo Templi Orientis, the OTO. So we start to get a little occulty, a little satanic.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. And there's so much chlamydia in this friend group.
Oh, yeah. I would not be surprised by that, based on what's coming up next. So this guy rented out rooms in his house only to tenants who he specified should be atheists and those of a bohemian disposition, which I feel like I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Hubbard befriended Parsons and soon became sexually involved with Parsons' 21-year-old girlfriend, Sarah Betty Northrup. Despite this, Parsons was very impressed with Hubbard and reported to Crowley, Hubbard is a gentleman. He has red hair, green eyes, is honest and intelligent. It's like the lie detector determined that was a lie. And we have become great friends. He moved in with me about 2 months ago, and although Betty and I are still friendly, she has transferred her sexual affection to Ron. Although he has no formal training in magic, he has an extraordinary amount of experience and understanding in the field. From some of his experiences, I deduced that he is in direct touch with some higher intelligence, possibly his guardian angel. He describes his angel as a beautiful winged woman with red hair whom he calls the Empress, who has guided him through his life and saved him many times. Hubbard, who Parsons referred to as Freighter H in his writing, became an enthusiastic collaborator in the Ordo Templi Orialis. They collaborated on Babylon Working, which was a sex magic ritual intended to summon an incarnation of Babylon, the supreme Thelemite goddess. It was undertaken over several nights in February and March 1946 in order to summon an elemental who would participate in further sex magic with them. So they were summoning a goddess to fuck.
Yeah, they were like, they were summoning a sex spirit.
Which,
and you know, some people that's such a common Thursday night for some people. You know, good for them. We're not shaming.
to quote Hoots, whomst among us
has not summoned an angel to fuck. Who's does?
Totally.
It's just a normal Thursday night with the boys.
Just, you know, as long as everyone's using protection and communicating honestly.
They're not using protection, Mandy.
They're not using protection, and they're not communicating honestly.
No,
That's why my first
Literally
reaction to like hearing Aleister Crowley's name is like, oh, okay, this friend group is definitely has been passing around the same strain of chlamydia for the past 25 years. Like,
yeah.
So this ritual involved Parsons using his magical wand to whip up a vortex of energy so the elemental would be summoned. Basically, Parsons yanked his magic
came
meat
into a
and
circle.
shot a ropey load beside Hubbard, while Hubbard astral projected, trying to find the truth of the universe. But apparently it worked.
It's been so long since someone has astral projected around me.
Right.
It's like, listen, I really want to astral project, but I literally can't do it unless a man is coming next to me.
Relatable.
I'm like, you know what? I get it. Like when you said Thursday night with the boys, I'm like, it's not far off. A little bit of magic, a little bit of coming on the floor, like into a pentagram, like
a little bit of astral projection.
Isn't astral projection really just disassociating? Like, I can do that.
Basically, yes.
Yeah.
Disassociating while a man comes next to me, that is a Thursday night.
It's like, I'm not even here. I'm not even here. I'm not even here. I wish this was done. This is taking so long.
The universe. I know everything now.
So it worked, apparently. And a few days later, they met someone named Marjorie Cameron, who agreed to participate in this rituals with them. So it seems like one of those things where they were like, well, I guess this is the same thing as a literal elemental goddess, just like some lady who agrees to have sex with us.
Yeah.
They're like, would you fuck us? Yes. You're a goddess. Which, I mean, I would like that, honestly. But...
So,
I mean, yeah. I mean, it could be worse. It could have been someone who did not agree to have sex with them. So I'll take this. This is probably the least horrible way that he's ever engaged in sex. So Sarah, Hubbard, and Parsons set up a business partnership, Allied Enterprises, in which they invested nearly their entire life savings, most of it from Parsons, because Hubbard did not have real life savings. And the plan was for Hubbard and Sarah to buy yachts in Miami and then travel to the West Coast to sell them for a profit. Okay, so Hubbard had a different idea. He wrote to the U.S. Navy requesting permission to leave the country to visit Central and South America and China for the purposes of collecting writing material. In other words, undertaking a world cruise. And Hubbard was like, Sarah and I will leave with the ships, and any money we get, we'll send back to you.
What a gig.
And and Parsons wrote to Crowley and told about this, and Crowley was like, bro, are you stupid? They're gonna fucking rob you blind.
You've been had.
Like, he was basically like, if someone tells you your account has been compromised, you need to send them $500 in Google Play gift cards. You can just assume it's a scam, baby. Like,
oh, did you also get an email from a Nigerian prince? Who said I went to the same place?
So Crowley's note said, suspect Ron playing confidence trick. Jack Parsons, weak fool. Obvious victim prowling swindlers. Which I just love. I love the economy of words there, where he was like, I am Aleister Crowley. I don't have time for any nonsense. I'm just going to be like, suspect Ron playing confidence trick. So Parsons attempted to recover his money by obtaining an injunction to prevent Hubbard and Sarah leaving the country. But they sailed away anyways. They were like, haha, sorry, bye.
Truly iconic.
It was too stormy, so they had to come right back.
No.
Oh no,
They didn't check their weather at Widget before they decided to like sail off.
I was respecting the scam for a minute.
Yeah, I'm imagining it very like a movie where they're just sailing off and they're still going, yeah, fuck you, man. That's what the
you like see the thunder clouds.
And then they go, oh no, and they have to like,
like just over them
immediately.
So they failed. And a week later, Allied Enterprises was dissolved. Parsons received $2,900 promissory note from Hubbard and returned home shattered.
Aww.
He had to sell his mansion to developers soon after to recoup his losses.
Oh, he had to sell his mansion.
But,
no.
My poor baby. You have to sell your like spooky magic sex mansion. Spooky magic sex mansion.
Spooky
I mean, I would
magic
go through
sex
there.
Spooky magic.
It's hard to say.
It is spooky magic sex
magic.
mansion.
That is our tongue
A
twister.
spooky magic sex mansion.
Magic sex.
I keep want to say spooky magic sex magic.
Me too. Spooky magic sex mansion. Spooky
magic sex mansion.
Spooky magic sex mansion. I have to slow down at sex.
Listeners at home, please tell us on Twitter how many times you were able to say that word and how fast in a row.
Send
very
us a video of you saying spooky magic
sex
sex
us a video,
magic. Damn it.
Recording.
Oh my god, we're gonna start a new TikTok trend with all the teams.
Yes, tag us, send us your TikToks.
Send us your TikToks, everyone.
Now, can you say it having spooky magic sex?
I probably couldn't since I can't say it anyways, but I will have spooky magic sex. I'm okay with that. Like, I do pretty much anything if you get me into a pentagram. It's probably a bad rule, but like...
There's a pentagram? Baby, I'm down. What are we doing?
It's like doing that fuzzy bunnies game, you know, like where you shove marshmallows in your mouth and you say fuzzy bunnies.
Oh,
except
fuzzy,
it's like
yeah.
with a dick in your mouth and you say spooky magic sex.
Editing Kaylin, record yourself saying spooky magic sex mansion with a dick in your mouth. I totally logged on to Grindr for you all, but things got really weird really fast.
Editing Kaylin, you have to do it. You've been called on.
Past Kaylin said it.
We're getting canceled in this episode.
Oh my god. Okay, so word began to spread that he was a fucking scammer, and his fellow writers were like, okay, this is sketchy as fuck. Like our poor mansion baby lost his spooky magic sex mansion. So now we need to be careful. So L. Sprague de Camp, which I love your name, wrote to
name.
Isaac Asimov on August 27, 1946.
Ooh,
There's a lot of big names in this story.
Isaac Asimov is a great
Yeah.
writer. Yeah, damn.
So he wrote to him to tell him, the more complete story of Hubbard is that he is now living on his yacht with a man-eating tigress named Betty alias Sarah.
Go, Betty.
Another of the same kind. Betty alias Sarah.
Betty alias Sarah.
Okay, Carol alias Marinara is the next. Officially making that her middle name.
Yes.
I love man-eating tiger.
Tigress.
Tigress.
Is gendered. Okay, so the more complete story of Hubbard is that he is now living on his yacht with a man-eating tigress named Betty alias Sarah, another of the same kind. He will probably soon thereafter arrive in these parts with Betty Sarah, broke, working the poor, wounded veteran racket for all it's worth, and looking for another easy mark. Don't say you haven't been warned. Robert Heinlein thinks Ron went to pieces morally as a result of the war. I think that's fertilizer, that he was always that way. But when he wanted to conciliate or get something from somebody, he could put on a good charm act. What the war did to him was wear him down to where he no longer bothers with the act. Scathing.
Yeah.
The tea. If I got this letter, I would be like, oh my God. And I would send a telegram to my wife asking her to bring me a coffee so that I could tell her the story.
So you
It's just like, babe, come here.
pull Peter Sellers.
Sorry, that was a very long callback for our listeners. Peter Sellers,
though.
Yeah, that's who it was?
It was,
it was Peter
That was my-
Sellers.
Okay.
Peter Sellers.
I thought it might have been the fake inventor.
Oh, is that his
But he just made the telegram like 4 times better or whatever the fuck.
Yeah, something like that.
So August 10th, 1946, Hubbard bigamously marries Sarah while still married to Polly, technically. And it was not until 1947 that his first wife learned that he had even remarried. Hubbard agreed to divorce Polly in June that year, and the marriage was dissolved shortly afterwards, with Polly given custody of the children, which thank fucking God.
Yeah. Thank God.
Like, Nibs is safe for now. Nibs is a little
Nibs.
traumatized,
Nibs.
but gone. So during this period, Hubbard authored a document which has been called the Affirmations, also referred to as the Admissions. These are some of my faves. This is the list of his little lies. So it's a series of statements by and addressed to himself relating to various physical, sexual, psychological, and social issues that he was encountering in his life.
Oh, wow.
The affirmations appeared to... What was
that?
Was that thunder?
That's thunder.
Oh my
Oh,
god!
fuck. I think the storm that was at your place, Kaylin, just got
to
to
you.
Portland. Damn, that was really loud.
Yeah, this is
Oh my
spooky.
gosh.
Yeah. I noticed it was kind of overcast and starting to rain. But
She's atmospheric.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully I don't like lose
Speaking
power
of
or anything.
spooky magic sex mansions.
I got a spooky magic sex basement right now. Ooh.
Spooky magic sex apartment.
Ooh, yeah. Well, I apologize if it keeps thundering.
No, it's
hopefully it doesn't, or if it does, it's
Yeah,
quieter.
I can just mute that part.
Okay.
I said I could. I didn't say I would. So these are some of the affirmations. The first one, your eyes are getting better. They became bad when you used them as an excuse to escape the Naval Academy. You have no reason to keep them that bad. Your stomach trouble you used as an excuse to keep the Navy from punishing you. You are free of the Navy. Your hip is a pose. You have a sound hip. It never hurts. Your shoulder never hurts. Your foot was an alibi. The injury is no longer needed. You can tell all the romantic tales you wish, but you know which ones were lies. You have enough real experience to make anecdotes forever. Stick to your true adventures.
I'm sorry, this is some like Gollum Smeagol shit.
Yeah. It's so like, no, we lies about the Navy.
What the fuck? What
that was an alibi. The injury's no longer needed.
Kaylin, that sounded like a deranged Mickey Mouse.
I mean, I feel like that is a little redundant. But okay. So this is the last one. Masturbation does not injure or make insane. Your parents were in error. Masturbates.
I mean, yes. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah,
I kind of approve of that
cross-stitch that for me.
I kind of want to schedule that as a tweet.
I want that cross-stitched above my bed to like inspire
Your
me.
Your parents were in error.
Your parents were in error. Go ahead and masturbate.
So after Hubbard's wedding to Sarah, semicolon masturbates. I do just cross-stitched semicolon masturbates.
Just
would be gorgeous.
Any of our listeners do cross-stitch.
Okay, so after Hubbard's wedding to Sarah, the couple settled at Laguna Beach. Very iconic. Where Hubbard took a short job looking after a friend's yacht. He's a very working class person, you see. Before resuming his fiction writing to supplement the small disability allowance he was receiving as a war veteran.
Well, his hemorrhoids.
His hemorrhoids and his posed hip, as he phrased it. So he was selling like science fiction novels and serialized novels like The End Is Not Yet and To the Stars. Like he was a science fiction writer and wrote a shit ton of science fiction. And also nobody ever thought like, hey, this guy that's writing science fiction is also writing very similar stories and saying that those are true. But that would happen later. He hasn't really gotten into like the actual bulk of the writings that would make up the teachings of Scientology yet. But he has written Excalibur, which is the foundation of Dianetics, and Dianetics is the foundation of Scientology. He was writing these books from a rundown area of North Hollywood in a trailer.
Relatable.
Yeah. He was short of money, and his son, L Ron Hubbard Jr., testified later that Hubbard was dependent on his own father and Margaret's parents for money, and his writings, which he was paid at a penny per word, never garnered him more than $10,000 altogether prior to the founding of Scientology.
Penny per word is so shitty because that's how you get like a high schooler's paper where you have to have like, you know, when you would write a paper in high school.
That's why he was so
and you had to have
verbose
10,000
and-
words. Yeah. So you're just like adding in nonsense.
Oh, okay. I won't really get into this at all in this, but there's this thing about Scientology where they like to take already existing words and make them mean something completely different.
Yeah.
Why?
And he did this a lot because it's just a form of like in speak, so that like everyone in the group, like, number one, because he was crazy and he was stupid and he probably just didn't know what they meant and then used them wrong and then was like, no, that's what I meant them to mean.
Yep.
Like 44 billion years ago when I went to heaven, that's what they said it meant. So like,
iconic.
Yeah. I mean, I say words that don't exist either, but I don't pretend that like that's how it's
That you
supposed
got
to
that
be.
from heaven? That you got that when you went to heaven as a baby?
No, before he was a baby. It was before he was born. But he was still he was an idea of a baby 44 trillion
sperm.
years. I'm the only sperm that's been to heaven twice. Need to remake that all dogs go to heaven poster with all sperms go to hell. So he repeatedly wrote to the VA, the Veterans Administration, asking for an increase in his war pension. I don't know if like people at the like, I don't know if like being at the Battle of Bubble Rock is like
Battle of Bubble Rock.
I want a t-shirt that says I survived the Battle of Bubble Rock.
You get to be a war hero before that. With a little submarine.
I technically declared war on part of Mexico.
I want a little memorial for the rock we lost. Like, just...
Oh no, the rock was fine. He missed.
Oh, that's right. Never mind. Or maybe it's a memorial like we almost lost this for the rock.
Imagine firing a cannon at a rock the size of a submarine and missing it. Like,
and then
like all of the weapons.
You're firing all of your weapons.
All of the weapons.
He literally used up all of it.
The like depth charges would explode and then like bubbles would raise to the surface and he'd be like, those are the bubbles from the submarine. We've got them now.
And then the rock would just be like,
and you know what? Everybody else on that.
If you listeners, you can't see, but Hoots turned into a rock.
And everybody else on that submarine's like, dude, I'm pretty sure this is a fucking rock. What do we do? I don't know.
It was a known rock.
Yeah, it was a known rock. Everyone's like, dude.
oh my God. Can you imagine if this man ever went to Mount Rushmore?
I carved those myself.
He's like, actually, yeah, I carved Mount Rushmore. Well, it was my idea, and I drew up the plans.
Yeah.
It came to me one time when I died at my physiotherapy appointment.
I died for 38 seconds.
Okay. A lot of people know that Scientology is like super anti-psychiatry. Like they have like entire museums that it's like the Scientology history of like the abuses of psychiatry or something like that. It's called Psychiatry, an Industry of Death. That's the name of the museum. Super fucked up. Because people in Scientology, probably more than a lot of other people, would benefit by seeing a fucking therapist.
Right.
But he did not care for that. But that came because of certain events in his life. Mm-hmm. Mostly people calling him crazy. And him requesting psychiatric treatment and being denied, and him writing his books as if they are psychiatry. Like he presented Dianetics when he eventually came out with it as a form of psychiatry. Like this is medicine. So this is something he wrote in 1947 to like as a request for psychiatric treatment. After trying and failing for 2 years to regain my equilibrium in civil life, I am utterly unable to approach anything like my own competence. which like for some reason I've never been able to achieve my own level of competence. I'm like, well, then is it your level of competence?
Yeah.
Because I think we based that on your achievements, of which
Yeah.
there have been none.
Right.
He said, my last physician informed me that it might be very helpful if I were to be examined and perhaps treated psychiatrically or even by a psychoanalyst.
I think based on the fucking diaries he keeps, yes.
Alone. Yeah.
Yeah, like maybe a little inpatient sesh.
Yeah.
would be
Little
really
something.
cute for him. Very refreshing.
Didn't he also get really salty with the psychiatric world because he wanted to be taken seriously by
Yes.
them, and they rejected him because they're like, no.
Yeah, oh yeah, that is coming up now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to spoil things, but that's something I remember.
No, it's fine. We're gonna get some choice quotes on how the medical industry viewed his writing.
They were like, we prescribe SSRIs, and you wrote a book that you says makes people kill themselves.
You're like, I am the only person who is qualified to perform psychiatry with this murder rape book that'll really help you out. So he says, towards the end of my service, I avoided, out of pride, any mental examinations, hoping that time would balance a mind, which I had every reason to suppose was seriously affected. I cannot account for nor rise above long periods of moroseness and suicidal inclinations, and have newly come to realize that I must first triumph above this before I can hope to rehabilitate myself at all. I cannot myself afford such treatment. Would you please help me?
He does need help. Like, he does.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Like,
this is the only thing he said that's true.
Yeah. Like, in
It's
addition
I need psychiatric
I
help.
need help.
In addition to all the, like, unhinged writing, like, him basically saying, like, I experience suicidal ideation a lot.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you need it. And it's sad that nobody would treat you.
Yeah.
Okay, but there's also this part, is that this was a request for an increase of his pension, his VA pension. There's no record of him using it for psychiatry after he got the increase.
Yeah.
So this may be like that thing where it's like, oh, my hip. Oh, I hurt my hip. I need more money. Like, no, baby.
Yeah.
You need...
Like falling in front of the ball in baseball. Like, oh,
Yeah.
I gotta walk. Like, yeah.
So, like, the broken clock of his, like, fake illnesses is twice.
Yeah.
Is right twice a day, you know?
Yeah.
But he was super poor. Like, that part is true. Like, he wasn't like lying, and he wasn't like the mythological welfare queen. He was just he just wanted money. I mean, I don't really think anybody's the welfare queen.
No,
but like
disability payments are not that high here.
Yeah. Like he was a scammer.
Yeah.
And he was lying, but he was lying to get money that I'm sure he actually needed because his pension was garbage. So he was arrested in California, petty theft.
Okay.
He was ordered to pay a $25 fine, which is like $280 today.
Okay.
I have all my numbers ready for my today numbers.
Good
That's
job.
Caitlin's favorite thing is looking up.
Yeah,
it's
inflation. Yeah.
I'm obsessed with it. I don't know why I even care. In 1948, Hubbard and his second wife, Sarah, moved from California to Savannah, Georgia, where he would later claim to have worked as a volunteer lay practitioner in a local psychiatric clinic. This is not true. In letters to friends, he began to make first public mentions of what was to become Dianetics, which was in 1949. He was working on a book of psychology about the cause and cure of nervous tension. And this is Excalibur.
Okay.
He wrote to a friend and fellow science fiction writer, author Robert Heinlein.
Oh, yeah, Robert.
Yeah, apparently people knew him. He was blue on Wikipedia. So he's a guy.
He's
a guy people know.
Yeah.
So he wrote a book in which a utopian government has the ability to psychologically cure criminals of violent personality traits. And Hubbard wrote to him and was like, listen, you know that science fiction book you wrote? I can do that. I have the means to do the thing that you wrote about in your book.
Okay.
Which is, I mean, like, that's a good pitch. I'd be interested. If somebody wrote me that, I would be like, number one, has your doctor ever told you need to see a psychiatrist?
Yeah, no, I'm imagining that coming to me in the form of like a Twitter DM and like how I would respond.
He's now convinced that, like, he takes meaning from that. like I read a book and it's foreshadowing my creation.
No.
So,
Oh, honey.
yeah.
You definitely need to see a psychiatrist.
Same. So he now is like, he's like, wow, so this is good. I have confirmation. I have real tangible proof that this is a real book.
Real tangible proof,
yeah.
in quotes.
Yeah. All of those words have like 3 scare quotes around them.
Yeah.
So he wrote to several psychological and psychiatric organizations to offer his research. And every single one was like, lol, no bitch, what the fuck is this? Like, like, are you kidding?
He's just like presenting them with like a dead bird, like a cat, and they're just like, nah.
You're like, okay.
His research wasn't done on people. Like he didn't have.
Right,
his
he
research
just said
was
it.
like
He just said
I read
things.
I said some stuff.
Yeah. I dreamed
so
it
smart.
while I was like huffing laughing gas at the dentist's office.
He turned to his editor, John W. Campbell, who was more receptive due to a longstanding fascination with fringe psychologies and psychic powers.
And also because he was his editor.
Yeah. And Campbell invited Hubbard and Sarah to move into a cottage not far from his own home that he owned.
Ooh, like a little cottage.
I want to move into a cottage.
Right?
Me too.
Being poor in the 30s was so much easier.
Yeah, you could just go live at your editor's cottage.
That's right. I fucking said it. Shots fired at the greatest generation. Come at me, bro. Oh,
I mean, if they're so great, why are they all
not
fucking dead?
to
You lived through the fucking Great Depression? Oh, must be so sad for you. Have you ever heard of a fucking bored ape? You don't know the things I have to know.
You know my pain.
Okay, so Campbell recruits an acquaintance, Dr. Joseph Winter, who becomes like a big part of the story, to help develop Hubbard's new therapy of Dianetics. Campbell told Winter, with cooperation from some institutions, some psychiatrists, Hubbard has worked on all types of cases: institutionalized schizophrenics, apathies, manics, depressives, perverts, stuttering, neuroses. In all, nearly 1,000 cases.
Tag yourself. I'm pervert.
I am apathies, perverts, and probably
I'm
neuroses.
pretty sure neuroses.
So in all, nearly 1,000 cases, but just a brief sampling of each type. And he doesn't have proper statistics in the usual sense. But he has one statistic. He has cured every patient he has worked with.
100% batting average.
Wow, honey, that's so good. Who put that on my fridge?
Who could have guessed that this was coming?
I mean, being able, there's a podcast called Sawbones, and they have a tagline which is cure-alls cure nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So if anybody's claiming that they can cure everything, they can do absolutely fucking nothing for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he's cured ulcers, arthritis, asthma. This was a lie, but he would be able to test his techniques on people soon, as Campbell was able to recruit science fiction fans as test subjects.
No.
Because they were like, oh, absolutely, I want to develop magic powers. Because that's what he's offering, right?
Not him standing outside of San Diego Comic-Con like, hey, do you want magical powers? Do you want to go do some sex magic with me in a mansion in Pasadena?
Do you know how many people? The line would just turn and form behind him and follow him down.
Like,
Comic-Con would be fucking empty and Joss Whedon would be sitting there crying his bald little eyes out.
You had me at magic.
Sorry, I didn't mean to like literally ruin Joss Whedon right there.
No, dude.
I mean,
Please
Joss
do.
Whedon,
But I don't mind.
I think Joss Whedon would
He
also
asked
be
for-
going to the sex mansion party in Pasadena.
Oh, no, absolutely.
Yes,
he would be
yes, he
first
would.
in line, salivating like a little fucking creep.
He'd be like, do you have any skinny girls in there?
I need them to be skinny and not actually strong. That Buffy in
Wide,
like season
staring
5 who was
eyes.
like 92 pounds, and I'm like, well,
Every
okay,
single
you were the
woman-
strongest woman in the world.
In every series he's ever done has been
Yeah.
like 90 pounds. He loves a skinny white woman.
So he said that your brain recorded every experience in a person's life, even when you're unconscious. That's not how brains work, or how they've ever worked, or how they will ever work.
Yep.
That's what he said.
My brain just making like that sound that my laptop makes when it's
Starts whirring like a plane taking off.
I like that we all had a different sound.
all of our laptops are
Right
like
now,
broken
just-
in a different way. Okay, so bad or painful experiences are stored as what he called engrams in a reactive mind. These could be triggered later in life, causing emotional and physical problems. By carrying out a process called auditing, a person could be regressed through his engrams to re-experiencing past experiences, and then your engram is cleared. And that's how like you would become a person in the state of clear. So you go back through all your past memories, including in past lives, trillions of years ago, relive all that trauma, which is basically just sitting there while an auditor is like, no, go deeper. And you're like, I was a dog and I killed another dog. And they're like, and that's why you're gay now.
This is why so many actors are Scientologists, because like the overlap with drama school is like almost a circle.
And they make you do this too. The auditing process, it literally takes hours, days even. Like you do it over and over and over. So like at a certain point, they're kind of encouraging you to lie because they want you to keep doing it over and over and over and over again. And they keep asking
like
for more detail.
brainwashing.
And you're like, well, I don't have any more detail. I guess I'll just fill it in. Maybe the shirt was blue. I don't fucking like it's like that.
No, that's exactly it.
Yeah.
They'll keep asking you specific questions like that until you answer.
Like the cops do when they want you to admit to a crime you didn't do.
Yep. They'll just keep asking until they get the answer they want. Yeah.
Yep. And if you don't, you are not going clear.
Yeah. You're
and it is
oppressive or whatever it is.
Yeah, you won't get labeled a suppressive person, but as we'll see later on, people who fail to live up to the standards of Scientology are like horrifically abused and occasionally made into literal slaves.
Yeah.
So it's in your best interest to just say the fucking shirt is blue or your father molested you or whatever they want you to say.
Make up whatever shit.
And they want you to say, whoever's auditing is standing there and they have an idea of what they think your problem fucking is. And they want you to agree to that. And if you don't, you are fighting them. You're just not trying hard enough. So you just keep going until it's done. And eventually, after fucking 16 hours of someone asking you if your father molested you, you're just going to say yes. So you can go to bed and have a little snack. And this happens a lot. And it's something that it's a phenomenon that's known in a lot of actual shitty psychiatric practices as well, like the rise of false memories and just creating narratives that never existed. It's very easy to get a person to do that.
Satanic panic type stuff. Like that's how they got all those kids to say that. And like, God, I can imagine. I'm so like gullible and doubt my own memories. Like I think it would take like 20 minutes for me to be like, well, maybe. Like if somebody was like, no, this terrible thing happened to you, I'd be like, oh well, maybe, like
I'd be like, well, a lot of other terrible things happened to me, so maybe you're right. Maybe this one was right too. I don't know.
I mean, honestly, like at this point, if someone really like if like my best friend started telling me a story about something terrible that happened to me and was like, how do you not remember this? I would just be like, oh, guess I forgot.
Yeah, same.
Like, I was smoking all that weed. Like, it's entirely possible. Like, I don't remember what I did yesterday. It's entirely possible that, like, I was attacked by a bear at some point in my life.
I do. Like, I have, like, there's, like, a whole year in my life where, like, my memory is kind of patchy because of some other stuff that was happening. So, like, I'm totally, like, primed already to be like, yeah, I guess if I don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so you clear those engrams by going through them through the auditing process, and now you're in a state of clear, which is supposed to give you a perfectly functioning mind. Like, you know that Matilda myth that's like, we only use 3% of our mind, but this stupid little girl uses so many parts, and she's fancy and she has powers, even though her parents suck, and you don't get anything, Kaylin.
Not true.
Sorry, I'm so bitter about Matilda still. I'm like,
you don't get anything, Kaylin.
Also, she's smart.
Oh, this little girl gets fucking neglected and she gets magic powers, and what the fuck do I get?
I remember that part of the movie where Danny DeVito looked directly into the camera and said, fuck you, Kaylin.
No, that was Matilda.
Oh.
I still hate her. I see she's popular on Twitter now, and every time her picture comes up, I'm like, oh, fuck you too.
Wait,
Still
what's her
so
name?
bitter.
What's the actress's
Mara
name?
Wilson.
Mara Wilson. That's
Yeah,
right.
Mara.
She is
Yeah.
big on Twitter. She and Lindsay Ellis had a feud, didn't they?
Oh yeah, I saw
They
that.
hate one another. Yeah.
It's a whole
I'm
thing
like,
there.
I don't particularly love either of them.
But I love messy Twitter drama.
I love messy Twitter drama, and I do still hold like a very serious grudge against Mara Wilson, even though I know damn well it's not her fault.
Even though you know she's not Matilda.
I mean, I know she's not Matilda, but
she still rubbed it in my face. So screw
yeah,
her.
I know. She
Yeah,
was so convincing in it, and
Yeah.
she had so much fun, and she made it look so wonderful that it just made me so sad that I couldn't have my parents weren't neglectful enough. Okay, so being in a state of clear, perfectly functioning mind with an improved IQ and absolute photographic memory.
Okay.
The clear would be cured of physical ailments ranging from poor eyesight to colds.
Okay.
And you were cured of those because Hubbard asserted all illnesses are psychosomatic. Which is like, I would believe that too if I made all mine up.
He had to keep a diary about the illnesses that he lied about. Of course he thinks they're psychosomatic.
The level of projection, like Homegirl's a lighthouse. Like you can see her from the other side of the Atlantic. It's just like he submitted this paper on Dianetics to the Journal of American Medical Association and the American Journal of Psychiatry. But both journals were like, no, just no. So they were like, okay, we'll go a different direction. We'll announce Dianetics and Campbell's astounding science fiction instead. In it, it's a magazine or column. I don't know, whatever the fuck they had back then. A little piece of published work that came out periodically. A periodical.
Yeah, it's like a little journal, like a little monthly.
Yeah, and they would just keep coming out, and people would buy them and read them up. People were able to submit things to it. So in an editorial, Campbell said, its power is almost unbelievable. It proves the mind not only can, but does rule the body completely. Following the sharply defined basic laws set forth, physical ills such as ulcers, asthma, and arthritis can be cured, as can all other psychosomatic ills. So that's not true. But people really started to enjoy this, to buy into this. This was the 1950s. People were believing literally anything. Like every day a new modern marvel was found. So why not Dianetic? And Hubbard was pretty charismatic. He had enough of a following, even though it wasn't like many people yet. It was probably like 5 people. He was very good at presenting himself as an authority. And that works on a lot of people, especially back then. I mean, it works on a lot of people now too. You don't even need to present yourself as an authority. You just need to say the authorities are lying and people believe anything you're saying.
Overly confident, mediocre white men is definitely
absolutely. Because he now had the cures for everything. Now, and they're psychosomatic, and Dianetics is how you cure them. Now people in the church are not allowed to perform any psychiatry. They're not allowed to actual medicine. Like there weren't church members yet, but this was like the foundation of the rejection of psychiatry. Everyone rejected him, said, this is garbage. This is literally garbage. Go publish it in a science fiction magazine instead. And he was like, oh, good idea. Like, that's a really good idea. So this is what he said to do when someone is mentally ill. Mentally ill is also his term. You take them somewhere quiet and try to keep them calm until they straighten out. But if you want to make someone feel like they're nothing, just ignore them. I don't know why that's medical advice, but this has caused a lot of issues in Scientology. Ellie Perkins was murdered in 2003.
Jesus.
Stabbed by her son Jeremy over 70 times. They were both Scientologists. They raised him in Scientology. And he was schizophrenic, but because he wasn't able to go to a doctor, he was never diagnosed. After the murder, he told a psychologist, my mom, I thought she was out to get me. Like sometimes she'd be totally normal and then she'd have that face again. So there's And as someone with schizophrenia, he would have been forced into like very difficult situations, isolated, audited, like like it is abuse. Everything that goes on in the church is abuse. But it fosters it in that environment.
It's kind of an interrogation.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But L Ron Hubbard, obviously a hypocrite, used a lot of drugs as well. Psychiatric drugs, any other drugs he could get his grubby little paws on. And homeboy loved to party. He told the News Herald that his father, Ronald DeWolf, L. Ron Hubbard's other son, he had a lot of kids over his time, told the news that his father took amphetamines, hallucinogens, and cocaine. This is one of my favorite quotes from him, because honestly, it's a little iconic. Hubbard himself said in a letter to his wife, "I'm drinking lots of rum and popping pinks and grays."
Yes.
Popping pinks and grays is like...
Grays. I'm going to pop some pinks and grays, and then I'm going to pop that pink hole.
I mean, they're often gray as well.
That pink and gray hole.
I'm popping that pink and gray.
Pink and gray hole. Go for it.
Once it was published in the science fiction magazine, Dianetics was an immediate success. People fucking loved it because, like, it's interesting to read about. When somebody writes a book telling you that they can give you secret magic powers like telekinesis and shit, like, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
I'm going to try it. If there's a book back then, especially claiming to give me magic powers, I'm going to try it. I mean, I tried it when I was a kid. I bought all those books from like Silver Ravenwolf, the fucking Wicca lady. Yep. I'm like, I'm absolutely going to be fucking magic by the time I'm done with this book called Teen Witch. So by 1950, it had sold 55,000 copies and was selling at a rate of 4,000 a week and was being translated into French, German, Japanese. 500 Dianetic auditing groups have been set up across the states. People were eating it up.
Dang.
Like, not all people, not the press and the scientific and medical professions.
Not the experts.
Yeah, no. The American Psychological Association said his claims were not supported by empirical evidence, which is a very nice way of saying what the scientific...
Dog shit.
Scientific American said, more promises and less evidence per page than any publication since the invention of printing.
Nice.
The New Republic called it a bold and a modest mix of complete nonsense and perfectly reasonable common sense, taken from long acknowledged findings and disguised and distorted by a crazily, newly invented terminology. Like, literally ruins him for filth. Isaac Asimov called it gibberish. And Jack Williamson called it a lunatic revision of Freudian psychology.
Ooh.
But actors loved it. Famous people fucking loved it. Aldous Huxley received auditing from Hubbard. The poet Jean Toomer, or maybe Jean, and the science fiction writers Theodore Sturgeon and A.E. Van Vogt became trained Dianetics auditors. Like, they wanted to be at like high positions in the church. These weren't just people reading the books. These people wanted to be part of the organization. And although, like, obviously it wasn't cheap, many people were willing to pay. Van Vogt later recalled doing little but tear open envelopes and pull out $500 checks. That was just his job, which, like, I mean, I'd be okay if that were my job.
Totes.
There were no real controls put in place. Like, Hubbard himself would take large sums of money with no explanation of what he was doing with it. On one occasion, Van Vogt saw Hubbard take out a lump sum of $56,000. Equivalent to $630,000 in 2021. Like, imagine you're the bookkeeper at work and the boss comes in and he takes out $630,000 and you're like, what's that for? And then he makes you go eat out of a bucket for 18 days.
What?
It's just like, yeah, questioning L. Ron Hubbard, period. Having any doubts about him or negative thoughts gets you put in the chokey.
Oh, no.
To once again quote,
Call back to
quote
Matilda.
One of Hubbard's employees, Helen O'Brien, commented that one of their foundations in Elizabeth, New Jersey, the book showed that a month's income of $90,000 is listed with only $20,000 accounted for. So he was starting to make really good money and just keeping it all to himself.
Yeah.
Enough was left to keep the orgs running, but not enough that like he would pay anyone in the orgs more than like a couple cents an hour. Like literally
God damn
cents.
it. This is always the way. This is always it.
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
One of the things that has always struck me about what makes Scientology just so like obviously terrible and yet so many people do it is just how like much money is involved. Like you're constantly encouraged to buy all these books, take all of these courses, pay for the auditing, all of that stuff. And then you get to these certain levels, right? But then sometimes they'll just be like, "Oh, actually a new book just came out, so now you have to retake this level that you've already paid for." And it's literally like hundreds of thousands of dollars that they're spending. And like people are being encouraged to like, well, it's always like being encouraged. It's like almost an MLM thing where it's like you're being encouraged to like, well, you know, if you really care about this program, if you really believe in us, you're going to find a way to find that money. Like
it's Gwen Shamblin's rulebook too.
Yeah.
It's Gwen Shamblin's playbook.
100%. It's that same thing. And it's always struck me as very interesting about how much blatantly money is about that whole thing. It's it's so shameless.
It wasn't even like there's a new book coming out. Occasionally they released, maybe it was only once, but at one point they re-released every single book.
Yeah.
They released a second edition with very minor changes of every single book everyone had ever bought, and everyone had to buy them all over again.
Yeah.
To the tunes of tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is big. Everyone thinks he's charismatic. Everybody is like fawning all over him. He's walking on clouds. He's unstoppable. He had bigger and bigger audiences coming to his seminars. Like he himself is teaching these. He is getting like groups of like hundreds of people coming to see him and paying to see these seminars, which is why I think he started to get a little too cocky. And with his waxy, oily little wings flying too close to the sun. Because in a seminar in 1950, he introduced a clear. Remember the clears are very magic people named Sonia Bianca, and told the audience that as a result of undergoing Dianetic therapy, she now possessed perfect recall. So obviously you have 600 people sitting there watching you. You do a demonstration. So she failed to remember a single formula in physics, the study in which she was majoring, or the color of Hubbard's tie directly after he turned around.
Oh my God.
Okay, homegirl did not have an infallible memory. She barely had object permanence. And at this point, everyone started getting up and walking out. Everyone that literally walking.
The worst thing you can do to him. The worst thing you can do to L Ron Hubbard is not pay him attention.
Nope. No.
They turn their backs and walks away, and Sonia was like, oh, he must have been having like he was literally so scromating his pants. He was scromatating in his underwears. And honestly, probably Sonia Bianca, like everyone turned around. She's like, where'd they go? So
were they not
playing
Dianetics
playing peekaboo with Sonia Bianca? Like, oh, he disappeared.
Okay. I'm going to become a drag queen. My name is going to be Sonia Bianca, and I'm going to have a show called Peekaboo with Sonia Bianca.
Oh my God.
Just like me on my YouTube channel, just being like, where'd I go? Where'd I go? So Dianetics fucked. Totally lost public credibility.
Whoa.
People started dropping out of the courses. Yeah, like, well, no, it was really big for us. Well, yeah,
with the normal
had public credibility. Yeah. Not like with anyone who knew what they were talking
credibility
about.
with an asterisk.
Yeah, several.
Yeah.
And Winter, his publisher, became disillusioned and wrote that, started speaking publicly or writing publicly that he had never seen a single convincing clear. And direct quote, I've seen some individuals who are supposed to have been clear, but their behavior does not conform to the definition of the state. Moreover, an individual supposed to have been clear has undergone a relapse into conduct which suggests an incipient psychosis. He also deplored the foundation's omission of any science, any research, anything to the claims whatsoever. And then Dianetics started to get away from him.
Mm-hmm.
People who were involved in it, who had been the auditors, were now splintering off and being like, oh, we actually perfected it. Hubbard's doesn't work, but we figured out a way that it does work. So now it's splintered off and he's lost complete control of this. His baby, his like dental laughing gas vision from God is now being taken, and other people are profiting off of it.
That reminds me of Ayn Rand, who, when people started, like, after the school closed down and people were just kind of like going out there and talking about their own interpretations of her ideas, she was like, no, perversions, that's not okay. Only my version's okay. Only me.
Only me ever.
Only me ever. Yeah.
So by the end of 1950, his foundations were $200,000 in debt, almost $2 million today. Dang. And people started resigning from the org, including Winter, his publisher, and they're not even trying to hide their distrust and disgust with him anymore. And they're publicly blaming him for every single issue that's happening in all of the branches he had set up. So they're all closing down now. And while he was still trying to come off as like worldly and interesting, like people are starting to notice like the cracks in his stories, the fact that he's like an absolute abhorrent and like virulent racist fucking piece of shit. Like a lot of the people that were signing up were like hippies, like not they weren't hippies yet, but these were
proto hippies.
These were people that wanted to be like, yeah, they like love
the
and metaphysics.
Hippie.
Yeah. But he would say things like, here are some quotes from his diaries. They smell of all the baths they didn't take. The trouble with China is there are too many censored here.
No.
Yeah, and that is a very obvious and undeniable slur underneath that censor. The South African native is probably the one impossible person to train in the entire world. He is probably impossible by any human standard.
Says the man who got kicked out of high school.
The man who shot a rock and missed.
The man who shot a rock with an entire artillery. Like,
and still missed.
From like 8 different angles. Or this comment to his wife. Get yourself an N-word. That's what they're made for.
Oh my God.
Oh, there's
literal piece of human fucking garbage.
That's some...
which is why maybe Sarah started a relationship with a Dianetics auditor because she fucking hated him.
Good for her.
Also, he was also having an affair with a 20-year-old assistant.
How old was he at the time?
But he was, what year is this? 50. This is like the early 50s.
So he was 1911. So he would have been in his 40s, right?
Yeah, 40s. So at least 20 years old.
So he was very pissed. He was not happy. He wanted ownership over his wife because he was among being a racist and a homophobe, he was a serious misogynist, which is why he secretly wrote a letter snitching Sarah out to the FBI, saying she was currently intimate with communists, but evidently under coercion. None of this was known to me until a few weeks ago. And he said that the auditor she was with was the center of most turbulence in our organization and active and dangerous. A short comment at the bottom of the FBI document about this said this about Hubbard. Appears mental. That's all they said. They got the letter. They wrote appears mental.
Mental.
And then moved the fuck on.
Accurate.
And they were right. Because 3 weeks later, Hubbard and 2 foundation staff kidnapped Sarah.
What?
And their year-old daughter, Alexis, and forcibly took them to San Bernardino, California. The way he got Sarah to come along was by saying, we have Alexis, and you'll never see her alive unless you come with us.
Jesus Christ.
Fuck.
They tied her hands, dragged her out of bed into a waiting Lincoln. She says that Hubbard had her in a chokehold to keep her from screaming.
What?
Hubbard's assistant, Richard DeMille, drove aimlessly while Hubbard and Sarah, who was only wearing a nightgown, sat in the back. She warned him that kidnapping was a capital offense. He ordered DeMille to stop at the county hospital so we could have Sarah committed. But it was the middle of the night and no doctor would talk to him. He gave up on committing her. So he dropped her back off at home, but kept her daughter.
Jesus.
And then after a bit, called her to say that he had cut her into little pieces and dropped the pieces in a river, and that he had seen little arms and legs floating down the river, and it was her
Jesus
fault,
Christ.
and she'd done it because she left him. He was lying to her.
Of course.
Just to fuck with her.
Just to fuck with her head.
Yep. And ended up taking Alexis to Cuba, where he continued to write his stupid fucking books. Sarah drew Hubbard and her child back to the States by suing him for divorce. The suit stated that he had married her bigamously, and so you don't even really need to get divorced because
it's never valid.
You're not
not
really
a recognized married.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this is super fucked up. Not like the last part wasn't, but apparently throughout their relationships, he had subjected her to sleep deprivation, beatings, strangulation, the kidnapping, and that he had often tried to get her to commit suicide.
Jesus.
So this would be like Excalibur.
Yeah, I was just
trying
thinking
to
that. Like
whisper into her ear to get her to kill herself.
Yeah, like, planting suicide ideation. So he was just writing a book about abuse, is what Excalibur really was.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he started writing it after he was with her.
Mm-hmm.
So I wonder how much of it was actually
inspired by
his fantasies about what he could get her to do, which like obviously still didn't even work. She didn't fucking kill herself.
Yeah. Jesus.
So directly after, when the news gets out, because this is now being talked about in courts, newspapers are being printed with headlines such as "Ron Hubbard insane," says his wife. She now has like the bit of protection of bringing this into the public eye. So yeah, she gets him to give her daughter back by agreeing to a settlement in which he asked her to sign a written statement that said, "The things I have said about L Ron Hubbard in courts and the public prints have been grossly exaggerated or entirely false. I have not at any time believed otherwise than that L Ron Hubbard is a fine and brilliant man." As soon as she got her daughter back, she took off. She was gone.
As she should.
Bolted.
Yeah.
And I fucking love her for that.
Good for her. Like,
Yeah,
get the fuck
I'm
out
so
of there.
glad.
Yeah.
Like out of like
Jesus.
that is, I think, probably the second most fucked up thing I found out in this research. Like that experience that Sarah had that night, and then as long as her daughter was gone, like it took her she didn't realize that her daughter was alive for a while. Like I read that out and then I was like, and that's not true. But she had a very long period where she thought her daughter had been like dismembered and thrown into a fucking river.
I mean, and we have the benefit of hindsight because we know that he didn't get arrested for murdering his child. So we know he's lying.
Right. But, and just thinking about how that must have felt for her, because like, you know, you believe that this man who is the father of your child killed the child. You're like, well, he's not going to give a fuck about me. If he's willing to do that,
absolutely,
child, who knows what he's going to do to me? So just like the absolute.
Well, also
grieving
after everything
and also
he did to her,
after what he
it's
already
believable
done.
that he did that to the child. Like it goes like both ways, right? Like,
exactly. And you.
So Dianetics on the edge of total collapse. However, a fucking millionaire businessman and Dianeticist Don Purcell agreed to support a new foundation in Wichita, Kansas. So they started.
Don Purcell sounds like a man who definitely like will come up to you at a party and do like a card trick.
Oh no!
You're like talking to your friends and he's like, pick a card, and you're like, I don't know. I guess that one.
He's like, no, pick this one. Their collaboration ended less than a year after they started because they fell out on the future of Dianetics, because obviously Ron's vision for it is to take over the entire fucking world and to be a messiah and to change the course of history. And Don was like, shouldn't we just like sell the book and make money? Like... So the Wichita Foundation bankrupt. Hubbard goes a little bonkers and starts getting paranoid and assuming people are being bribed by the American Medical Association. Only 6 weeks after setting up his new thing, the Hubbard College, and marrying a staff member, 18-year-old Mary Sue Whipp, Hubbard closed it down and moved with his new bride to Phoenix, Arizona. And this is where he formed the Hubbard Association of Scientologists International. First time he'd ever used that word to promote his new Science of Certainty, Scientology.
Wow. Thanks for that.
Thanks for that. That was nasty.
That was that was a journey.
Oh, it gets. And it sounds
so
like it's going to get worse.
He is a literal fucking monster.
He truly is. I know there's I know just based on some of the stories that I've heard that there's stuff we haven't even talked about yet. So yeah, I'm interested but not happy, I guess.
Yeah, he is not one of the ones that we're gonna problematically stan.
Right.
Yeah, no.
Like, period, ever, no matter
No.
what. Like, there is
We
not a
just hate
single
him
good
straight up.
quality that he has.
There has been nothing that's happened so far that's made me feel that way. Even the scammy things that he's done. And usually I
His
love a
scams aren't even
scammer.
good.
Yeah, that's
I
it.
know.
Usually I
Like,
love a scammer.
I like a caller into sick worker.
Yeah,
but like
but not like this.
call her into work sick, but not being like, oh, my eyes hurt.
Yeah.
Like
the
just say
only,
you have a cough or something.
The only scam that he did that I kind of thought was interesting was like him just being like, okay, I'm just gonna take this yacht, bye. Like, I kind of like that one. That one was kind of fun.
Yeah.
Setting off and then coming right back.
Yeah.
He's not even good at it. A true scammer would have been in the Riviera by the time the storm ever came with his new wife.
Right. He's not even good
a true
at
scammer checks their almanac.
Yeah, a true scammer.
And their horoscope.
I want that on a t-shirt. A true scammer checks their almanac. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Respect the Dead. You can follow Respect the Dead on Instagram and Twitter at _Respect the Dead.
If you want to follow us individually, you can find our socials in the show notes. And you should check out our YouTube channels. We don't shit on dead people there as often, but still, we're making tons of cool stuff.
If you enjoyed Respect the Dead and would like to support us, there's a couple of ways to do that.
You can give us a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you found us. If you leave us a review, we can read it out on the podcast. Reviews are the best way for new listeners to discover the show. Give us at least 5 stars and then share us with a good friend who likes venting about dead people.
You can also give us some money over on our Patreon. Patreon supporters get some cool bonus content like bloopers from the cutting room floor and even coming up with a fake sponsor ad that we'll read in an episode. It has to be a fake business though, not your MLM, Henny.
Thanks so much for listening. Join us every Monday for our next Worm Feast.
I'm Kellen Conrad.
I'm Mainly Mandy.
And I'm Hoots. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.